This is Land of Havilah, Mark 5a. It was night when Jesus calmed the storm at sea, Mark 4:35. As soon as they got to the other side, opposite Galilee, and were getting out of the boat, verse 1, they came to the other side of the sea into the country of the Gadarenes. When he had come out of the boat, immediately a man with an unclean spirit met him out of the tombs. He lived in the tombs. Nobody could bind him any more, not even with chains, because he had often been bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been torn apart by him, and the fetters broken in pieces. Nobody had the strength to tame him. Always, night and day, in the tombs and in the mountains, he was crying out and cutting himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and bowed down to him, and crying out with a loud voice, he said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, you Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, don't torment me." For he said to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." He asked him, "What is your name?" He said to him, "My name is Legion, for we are many." He begged him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Now on the mountainside there was a great herd of pigs feeding. All the demons begged him, saying, "Send us into the pigs, that we may enter into them." At once Jesus gave them permission. The unclean spirits came out and entered into the pigs. The herd of about 2,000 rushed down the steep bank into the sea, and they were drowned in the sea. Those who fed them fled and told it in the city and in the country. The people came to see what it was that had happened. They came to Jesus and saw him who had been possessed by demons, sitting, clothed and in his right mind, even him who had the legion. And they were afraid. Those who saw it declared to them what happened to him who was possessed by demons and about the pigs. They began to beg him to depart from their region. As he was entering into the boat, he who had been possessed by demons begged him that he might be with him. He didn't allow him, but said to him, "Go to your house, to your friends, and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you, and how he had mercy on you." He went his way and began to proclaim in Decapolis how Jesus had done great things for him, and everyone marveled. Comment: This account's also in Matthew 8 and Luke 8. They landed near two cities, Gadara and Gerasa. Thus Mark and Luke call the region after the name of one city, and Matthew after the other. There's one more difference in the accounts, but it's also reconcilable that Matthew indicates there were two possessed men, while Mark and Luke only mention one. We could resolve this by assuming there were two, but one of them took more of the spotlight. Putting the accounts together, there was a man in horrible condition, possessed by many demons, to the effect that he was homeless and naked, living in tombs and wandering in the mountains. It was no use trying to help him because he was violent, aggressive, and overwhelmingly strong. He broke chains and fetters and overpowered anyone assigned to guard him. He was, quote, exceedingly fierce, so that nobody could pass that way, Matthew 8:28. Always, night and day, he lived in the tombs, cried out, cut himself with stones, and assaulted the public. This went on for a long time, Luke 8:27. He had many unclean spirits, but one of them ruled over the rest of them and did the speaking. In verse 6, Jesus noticed the unclean spirit, and the unclean spirit noticed him when they were still afar off from each other. Jesus commanded him to come out, which prompted the unclean spirit to run up to him and bow as he was getting out of the boat. Speaking through the man, the unclean spirit begged, "What do I have to do with you, Jesus, you Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, don't torment me." End quote. Matthew adds that the unclean spirit asked, "Have you come to torment us before the time?" End quote. Unclean spirits or demons, and this passage uses both those terms interchangeably, originated as angels, Revelation 12:7, 12:9, 2 Peter 2:4, and Matthew 25:41. They rebelled from God, 2 Peter 2:4. There was war in heaven between Michael and his angels and Satan and his angels. Michael and his angels expelled Satan and his from heaven and threw them down to earth, Revelation 12:7-9. Satan is also called Beelzebul, Matthew 12:24 and 12:26. Satan is the prince or ruler of the demons, Matthew 12:24-29. Satan and his demons rule the dark and evil aspects of this world, 2 Corinthians 4:4 and Ephesians 6:12. Satan's also called the god of this world, 2 Corinthians 4:4. The Christian is in continual struggle against Satan and his forces, Ephesians 6:12. Jesus has authority over them. He tells them where they can and cannot go, Mark 5:10. Jesus gave us authority over them as well, because when he spoke of treading on serpents and scorpions, he wasn't talking about reptiles and insects. He was talking about spiritual forces of wickedness. Quote, "Behold, I give you authority to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy. Nothing will in any way hurt you," Luke 10:19. So if they harass us, we can use our authority and tell them to leave, grabbing to the promise, "Nothing will in any way hurt you," end quote. But if we sin, we leave an opening for them, quote, "Sin no more that nothing worse happens to you," John 5:14. Demons can inhabit a person so that he's affected intermittently, Matthew 17:15, or continuously, as in the passage we just read. They don't like to be cast from man. It's torment for them. As the chief demon in the man begged Jesus, "Don't torment me," Luke 8:28. They're shameless. After all the torment they caused the man, they begged not to be tormented themselves. They didn't want any of their own treatment. When cast out, they search for another place to go. The person they just left is a primary target. Quote, "The unclean spirit, when he has gone out of the man, passes through dry places, seeking rest, and finding none, he says, 'I will turn back to my house from which I came out.' When he returns, he finds it swept and put in order. Then he goes and takes 7 other spirits more evil than himself, and they enter in and dwell there. The last state of that man becomes worse than the first." Luke 11:24-26. God will eventually lock them away, Revelation 18:2, in eternal fire, Matthew 25:41. They have no chance of redemption. They are, quote, "in everlasting bonds under darkness for the judgment of the great day," Jude 1:6. Sometimes they're already confined to an abyss or hell or pit of darkness, 2 Peter 2:4. But they also occupy the heavens, Ephesians 6:12, but not the heaven of God, and they can occupy men. Being in man and being in the abyss are two different things to them. Quote, "They begged him that he would not command them to go into the abyss," Luke 8:31. Back to the passage at hand, in verses 11 and 13, they went into the herd of 2,000 pigs and made the pigs go insane so that they drowned themselves, which demonstrated their destructive nature. Once the pigs were dead, the unclean spirits were left homeless again, which demonstrated their inability and fecklessness to help anyone, even themselves. In verse 15, after the demons went out, the man was completely in his right mind and wearing clothes for the first time in a while. But when the townspeople saw it and heard about the pigs, quote, "they were afraid," end quote. Why? It was the same as the disciples' fear on the lake when Jesus calmed the storm. In both cases, Jesus displayed power, and power's frightening. Plus, there was the economic loss of 2,000 pigs. No telling what else Jesus might do, so, quote, "they began to beg him to depart from their region," in verse 17. In verses 18 through 20, the man begged to go with Jesus, but Jesus didn't allow him. So the man went home and, as Jesus commanded, and told what good things God did for him. He told it well, apparently, to the whole city, Luke 8:39, so that in verse 20, everyone marveled. If God has done great things for us, we should probably proclaim it. In all 3 accounts, Jesus immediately crossed back over to Galilee in the boat. Therefore, it was a brief mission which took him away from the multitudes in Galilee to just that one man or 2 men, from a region where they couldn't get enough of him to one in which they couldn't send him away fast enough. And he went through a storm at sea to get there. Thus he demonstrated his saying that he would leave the 99 to seek just one, Matthew 18:12. Mark 5b's next at landofhavilah.net, Mark 5b.